Good morning. I'm Helen Derpinghouse, Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Studies, and I'm thrilled to see you all here today. This is the second in our spring series of undergraduate studies forums, and today we're focusing on USC Connect, the biggest learning initiative here at Carolina in several decades. Today we're joined in the Russell House Theater on the Columbia campus by friends across the state from Lancaster, Union, Salkehatchie, and Sumter. So thank you all for being here. On your screens this morning you'll see a chat box in the bottom left corner, and I invite you to participate. Send your comments and questions, and at various times this morning we will have Q&A so that we can talk about the things that you most want to know about. For those of you here in the Russell House Theater, I'd like to ask you to come talk into the microphone so that everyone at the other campuses and viewing from their offices can hear what you're saying. Today is USC Connect. We have two more forums this spring. On April 16th, same time, same place, we'll have a forum on advising. And on April 30th, we'll have a forum on the new leadership initiative, and you'll have a chance to meet Dr. Kirk Randazzo, the new faculty director for that initiative. You'll also hear more about graduation with leadership distinction, a new program that offers lots of opportunities for students. So without further ado, I'd like to start today's conversation about USC Connect, and it is going to be a conversation. We have 6 wonderful students here on stage. We have Dr. Irma Van Scoy, the faculty director of the USC Connect initiative, and lots of faculty and professional staff and students here in the theater to talk about USC Connect. But to open us up this morning, let's begin with our provost, Dr. Michael Amaritas.
What is important about USC Connect is that it builds on the strengths of what we are already doing and then challenge us to move on to an even higher level. We offer great opportunities to our students. We offer great opportunities in the classroom through the coursework run by outstanding faculty. We offer great opportunities on our campus through experiences in residential life and student organizations. And we offer great opportunities off campus through our study abroad program, the community engagement program, and some undergraduate research programs. But all students are not taking advantage of these opportunities, and many who are do not meaningfully connect the experiences that they have in the classroom with the experiences that they have outside of the classroom. The Carnegie Foundation described today's typical college education as a fragmented landscape with much potential for learning lost as students move from one disconnected activity to another. Does this ring a bell? It does for me. It tells me that we can do better, not necessarily by doing more, but by being more aware of our common goals and by taking advantage of the available resources. USC Connect is about 2 things. One is giving every Carolina student the opportunity to engage in meaningful experiences, both inside and outside the classroom. You may ask yourself what experiences in research, study abroad, community service, internship, or leadership are right for your students. Or you may talk with your colleagues about how can you encourage students to take advantage of such opportunities. The second thing that USC Connect does is to support the students in constructing learning across experiences and over a period of time. How do the principles learned in class apply in other circumstances? How do lessons learned in one setting inform another? How does the totality of a student's experience inform his or her choices for the future, and how does it inform their professional development? We can help students make connections through meaningful course assignments, opportunities to present their findings in different venues, and many other ways. Of course, we're already doing some of this, but we can do it even more thoughtfully. I hope you will open these weekly messages listen to a story or two from a faculty member engaged in USC Connect, and look to see if any of the resources that we provide to you are right for you and your students, and most importantly, how will they benefit your students. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Irma Van Scoy, Executive Director of USC Connect, and glad to be with you here this morning. And of course, you just heard from Provost Emeritus. And I'm going to do a few minutes of an update for you on USC Connect before we get to the really fun part of the forum, which is hearing from our students, which we so appreciate their being here today. I want to follow up with the Provost's message by saying at the very end, you heard him say, please open your weekly email. So the message from the Provost was recorded specifically for faculty and to be shared with staff as well. And so he was directing his message at them and encouraging them to open the weekly email that they get. This happens to be this week's email, which encouraged people, by the way, to come in or tune into the forum. So I'm hoping it helped us get even more people involved in the forum this morning. So first of all, my message to faculty and staff are to please open these weekly messages. As it says on the message, give us 30 seconds a week and scan this message. That's all we're asking for. Now, in a time when you have a little bit more time some week, we hope you'll go over to the right-hand section of the message and click on some of the resources, listen to the videos or see some of the videos and support materials we have and are continuing to develop there for faculty and staff. So please look at that. And we do, of course, thank Provost Emeritus, who's really the leader of this initiative as the provost and has been very supportive of USC Connect. Of course, I think of this slide as kind of the main message of USC Connect. Here are the pathways which we emphasize in terms of student beyond the classroom experiences. And then my actual favorite part of the diagram, the part I think is the most important, did you guess yet in your head? Are the red arrows that are on there. Did you get it right, Devontae? Okay, I knew you would. The red arrows represent that connection. That's what we want, is the connection between the beyond the classroom experiences and within the classroom experiences. And that's really where the heart of USC Connect is. The experiences are important. The great work that our students do in classrooms with our faculty is important, but we have to help them link those two things. And that's really where we're going to focus today when we get to talking about e-portfolios, which is one tool that students can use to make those connections. Before we get to that, I'm going to mention a couple other initiatives of USC Connect that we just want to make sure that people are aware of. One of the things that we want to do are help students to be able to choose the really very best experiences that will help them as they think about their futures. And so we are working this semester with the colleges and schools to develop recommendations for students. These might be by college, they might be by department, they might be by program. We're working that out right now. But we want students to get some specific examples of the kinds of experiences that their major or their area would recommend that would really enrich their educational experience if they participate in particular kinds of beyond the classroom experiences. And then also we're asking the programs to talk about the ways in which they support students in creating connections between those experiences and their academic work, whether it's through course assignments, e-portfolios, opportunities to present, whatever it might be for that particular program. And then ultimately, what are the opportunities for leadership in relation to the student's area of study? So we're working on articulating that because what we've found so far in USC Connect in terms of feedback from students is that they would like some more specific examples to help them understand how it really applies to them. So we know we need to get more specific, and that's what we're going to work on doing. Here's one tiny example, which is from marine science. And marine science actually has most of these bulleted items in the USC Connect database, where we also encourage faculty and staff to enter experiences for students so that they can find them. So we might, for example, recommend for a student in marine science that they do a research inquiry project at the Baruch Institute, or they join SEAS, S-E-A-S, Students Engaged in Aquatic Sciences, which is a student organization related to their field, or maybe they would want to do a semester abroad. Well, it's not abroad, it's aboard. Got that? I wanted to say abroad. We say study abroad. It's a semester aboard a tall ship at sea. Pretty cool, right? If you're in marine science, our marine science students can do that. Many do that. Or for community service and global study, a marine science student might find a particular service learning abroad experience that's related to their work in marine science. So we want to make recommendations as specifically as we can. They are examples for students. They are not checklists. So we're not trying to create something where students have to feel like I have to do everything on the list. It's to give them ideas, and then we want to encourage them to think about what's right for them. So it's giving them options. And of course, we think of the faculty and staff as being really critical to making the right recommendations. I certainly cannot make recommendations for marine science. This came from marine science. So we need faculty in all areas to help us with this. We'll be looking for that. And then Dr. Derpinghaus mentioned that there will be a forum on graduation with leadership distinction in April. That will be coming up. I was going to mention it this morning because this proposal and the potential for graduation with leadership is an initiative that is being co-sponsored by USC Connect and the Carolina Leadership Initiative. So we're really working closely together on this. It's just in the proposal stage right now. It's something that would have to be approved by Faculty Senate. But we've gotten far enough along that we want to really get the word out there about it, and we certainly want to receive input from people regarding the further development of this. And it focuses on the pathways related to USC Connect, a little bit reconfigured, and I'm not going to go into details this morning, but stay tuned for further information. And in each pathway, students would have 5 key requirements, which you see listed on the screen here, including having core experience hours and enhancement activities, which would be things like lectures and workshops, specific coursework. And I do want to take this opportunity to say that the potential for having a graduation with leadership distinction will not increase the number of credit hours that a student needs in order to graduate. We are really committed to that, and I know it's something that concerns everyone. And so we are not looking at adding hours. We're just looking at carefully selected experiences and integrating those within and beyond the classroom experiences to get to leadership distinction. So there'll be many courses for students to pick from in each pathway. And then the last 2 items are really about students presenting how they have integrated their learning and how they see that learning as applying to what they're going to do in the future and how they might lead. So we're looking for students to have opportunities to present, possibly even publish in some areas, and also to create an e-portfolio. And there could, of course, be other options for that, but right now the e-portfolio is the option which the university has the resources to provide widely to students. And so I now bring you to really today where we have been working on the e-portfolios. So this is how we see your portfolios, a vehicle to integrate learning. And you really understand that once I think you hear from our students this morning, so I'm going to let them describe that for you. I do want to say a couple of thank yous and give you a little bit of history in relation to e-portfolios. About a year ago, we got an upgrade from Blackboard, which gave us a new kind of e-portfolio. We have had them in the past on Blackboard, but this is a new version. And so in the last year, we've been working very hard, and I want to recognize Michelle Dames from University Technology Services, who happens to be in the audience here today. Michelle has been our lead person from UTS, and she developed our first sample portfolio, which you can see on here. It's Cocky's, of course, e-portfolio, which is up on our website as a sample. But Michelle has been instrumental way beyond that. We developed templates for USC Connect portfolios to try to make creating a portfolio easier for students. We then held training last summer, and we had over 70 faculty and staff take the training and learning about e-portfolios. Michelle led all those sessions. And then last fall, we had 14 sections of University 101 that used, and I think of it as piloting e-portfolios in their University 101 sections. And that was totally voluntary, but some instructors chose to do that, came to the training in the summer, and so that happened in the fall. And then this spring, we've now embarked on a project where we invited students, primarily juniors and seniors, and we have a couple of really forward-looking sophomores that are also participating in our project this semester, which is for upper class students to pilot use of the e-portfolios, and so that we can learn from that to make this an even better project for students in the future. So that brings us to where we are. And so now I'm going to let you hear from the students, and then following that we'll have a question and answer period, and you can feel free to ask questions about anything we've talked about so far or about the e-portfolios. And here's the list of all the students that are here. I'm going to let you each introduce yourselves as you come forward, okay? So please remind us of your name and your major when you come up and your year. But here's the list, and you can see that we have a first-year student, a sophomore, and then a number of seniors, and they're from different colleges and schools, so we're very happy with the variety. And these are just the presenters. We have more students. 22 students volunteered to be part of our project this fall. And then I also want to recognize Sarah Corwin and Steve Barth in Public Health, because they've been leaders on the faculty side in relation to e-portfolios, and their class is here this morning, actually. And 3 students in the class are sitting on the stage because in that class, they are doing e-portfolios this semester as a culminating project. And so we've, of course, been connected with Steve and Sarah, and their students graciously agreed to be with us. So we thank you for that. There are, by the way, other colleges and schools. Social work actually requires an e-portfolio for their students, if you didn't happen to know that. And e-portfolios are also used in library and information sciences regularly, and I'm sure in other areas. And if you are listening and you're out there or you're in here and you're using an e-portfolio, whether it happens to be the particular kind of e-portfolio that we're demonstrating today or another one, please get in touch with us. We would love to know that you're out there. So now we will go to the fun part, and we're going to start off, sorry, Jordan, with Jordan Goff, who was a student in University 101. So I think of Jordan as being especially brave. You know, seniors, I kind of expect you to want to get up here, but Jordan, of course, is a great first-year student. Thank you, Jordan, for being here, and welcome you to come up here and tell us about your experience. Shall I click on this here for you? And there we go. Oh, I'm going this way, excuse me.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. Like I said, my name's Jordan Goff, and I am a freshman here at the university, and I am pursuing a degree in early childhood education. So I did my portfolio this past semester, the fall semester, in Dr. Renee Connolly's University 101 course. And when we first got the assignment, I was like, this isn't going to apply to me. Like, I don't really want to do this. But after retrospect, I can realize that it's been really fun, and it's allowed me to reflect and really kind of compile my thoughts, and I really enjoyed the experience. But I am a freshman, so therefore I haven't had many professional experiences or collegiate experiences. So when we were assigned the project, Dr. Connolly said, you know, take previous experiences that have been personal to you and really grown you and shaped you, and put those in your portfolio. So one of the experiences that I'm going to showcase today, I wish I could show you my whole e-portfolio, but I don't have time, was a trip that I took to Africa the summer before my senior year. I wanted to include this in my e-portfolio because it was what inspired me to become an early childhood education major. I went on a mission trip to Africa, to Kenya specifically, and I was put in a classroom to teach. I was in high school, never taught before, never taken an education class before. I was like, oh no, this is not good. I don't even want to be a teacher. But going there, I was put in a classroom with 50 little Kenyans, and that was my first teaching experience. Not in Richland District 1 doing a practicum, not in the Children's Center doing service learning, but in a little shack in Kenya. And so these are some pictures that I included in my e-portfolio. You can include thumbnails or links in your e-portfolio, and then some just some personal reflection of text. But there's a picture of me teaching in Kenya with another student in high school. And there's some pictures of the students in Kenya. But I think that these are the experiences that really develop students and really form students. This is the type of thing that I want a principal or a future employer to see about me. You know, you have resumes that have all the list of academic successes that you've had and all the universities that you have attended. but you don't really get to see that personal side of someone and those experiences and growth that you've had. So I think the ePortfolio does that beautifully. You get to see kind of the softer side and the personal side of someone, and I think I would love to show this to someone in a professional setting, and I think that would really set a student above the rest. I am a freshman, and there's also a lot of upperclassmen up here who have done the project recently, but I would really encourage freshmen to do this because, like I said, I have 4+ years to add on to this, to add professional development, to add experiences that I've had in the classroom here with student teaching and internships. And so I'm going to be able to add those, the 4 years. If you're a senior, you know, you have your senior work, and that's about all you have. But I'm going to be able to add on to my ePortfolio and really include that and see how I've grown from freshman year to senior year throughout a master's program, and be able to show this to a future employer. So I think it's really great. I really actually enjoyed doing the assignment. I'm not technologically savvy whatsoever, but Michelle Dames came to our classroom and gave us step-by-step on how to make the portfolio, and it was really easy. So I really encourage students to do it, and I'm an advocate for it. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
And let's see, I'm just going to go back to the other slide.
It's supposed to be on the bottom, he said.
What's that? Oh, the blackboard piece is what you need. Sorry.
That's all right.
Since a couple of our ePortfolios are actually in progress this semester, they're in Blackboard versus being at a URL. That's where we got to Jordan's, because you can create a URL site for your portfolio once it's done. Oops, sorry. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe Lillard, and I am a senior public health major, and I have worked on my portfolio. It began this semester, so you'll see that it's a work in progress, but this is what we've accomplished thus far. And so for my opening About Me page, I tried to keep it simple and professional because I was applying to graduate school, and, you know, it's simple, and like a resume, they're only going to look at so much. And so what I tried to think was simple, to the point, representing me in the light that I want them to see me in. And I wanted throughout my whole portfolio to keep one main goal or theme, which was occupational therapy school, which I've recently been accepted to. And so I also listed that on my page. But I didn't want it to be so long that it would be overlooked. So then basically what I'm going to explain is how I took my portfolio and honed it into a theme of what I wanted to pursue, which was occupational therapy. And so with my academic assignments, oops, 1 second. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Steve to the rescue.
Yes. Okay, so you're going to sign in? Yes. Okay. Well, anyways, I can talk while he pulls that back up. But what you'll see is I have an academic tab, and under my academic tab, I have my lab research assignments and then psychology assignments, because I took psychology courses which were required for my occupational therapy school, and then I also took public health core classes. And so I took the most important projects that I had spent a lot of time on and I put a lot of thought into, and I'll show you a couple examples. But basically, they were the projects that really taught me what I needed to know to further go into occupational therapy. And for example, one was a nutrition course that I took where we had to look at everything we ate for the day and go through and analyze our dietary analysis. And then I further, which you'll see in the research, it's integrative, that I ended up doing research with USDA Foods in the Farm to School project, where we go through from school to school in South Carolina and look at what the children are eating and bringing local foods to those classrooms or to the lunchrooms. And then we also, what was that?
Sorry, yep.
Yay.
We're almost there.
Speak more into the mic. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So here's my collection of academic assignments that I was talking about. So you'll see for Public Health 489, that's my senior capstone class that we are working on this project with. And then I have all of my lab science, which, a fitness report, which would go with my occupational therapy and my therapy courses, abnormal psychology, because we deal with patients who have different personality disorders. And there we go. Sorry, not so technologically savvy. And then here's my public health assignments. So they all helped me in the future with different things that I would end up doing, such as the teaching and mentoring, where I worked with Garnet Circle, and then Challenging Horizons was an after-school program where we also worked with nutrition and therapy. Well, not necessarily therapy, but exercise and health and fitness, which I'll further work with therapy. University 101, where I learned to teach, which an occupational therapist is honestly a teacher in a hospital. You're teaching someone how to use their body again after they've had surgery or some type of damage. And then also being new member educator for my sorority, where I also was given teaching experience. I also changed my portfolio so that all of my community service was medical related. And so instead of having a community service tab, all of mine was either in the hospitals or at different clinics or in a retirement home, which I'll be working with in my senior capstone project. And then I also came together, and this was probably the hardest thing for me to get together. It was my resume, my transcripts, my personal statement, and my references, which all were required for graduate school. And so the e-portfolio can be used for graduate school, for internships, for future jobs, just any of the following. They all were useful. So I made it fit for occupational therapy for me. And so, yeah. Any questions? Thank you.
I just want to point out that our technical difficulties were because we were so well prepared before the forum that it timed out, and that's why we couldn't make the link. It didn't have anything to do with the e-portfolios themselves.
Is yours still logged in?
And I'm betting Davis knows how to do this better than I do, so I'm going to let him go forward here.
All right. I'm Davis Moore. Do it. I am. All right. My name is Davis Moore. I'm a senior in the public health department. And what I'm here to talk to y'all today about is how I've integrated learning through my experience in the past 3 years. I actually transferred in, but Dr. Corwin actually encouraged me to join the public health department. And I'm fortunate she did and glad. But I'm going to start off with some of the courses. And Public Health 102 was actually taught by Dr. Corwin. It was an introduction into public health. And she taught me what exactly public health meant. And she related public health to everything out in the world. And in HPB 511, we had a project. We had to complete a policy brief, which had to be on an issue in South Carolina or at the university. I found that I wanted to take something away from this class and apply it to, real world and end up using it, after graduation. But I created a program called CROW, which used student athletes at University of South Carolina to go out into the community to educate the kids on physical activity and educate on proper nutrition. And I've used all the courses after this class. I've tied it into my project, and I'm actually getting it implemented at the end of this month. But I'll get to that in a minute. And then HPB 300 was a intro to health education class. You took the basic education on health, and then I applied it. We had to do a project in this class about implementing a program. And I used, to be healthy and healthy food alternatives in classrooms and so and so. But I then took information I learned of that to apply it to my program. And I actually have tabs under here that are assignments and projects for this class. Once again, HPB 502 is a nutrition class taught by Dr. Montgomery, and learned all the healthy benefits of eating healthy, and I tied that into my program, so then I could be almost a professional and go and teach these kids. You really need to eat healthy along with being physically active to help fight childhood obesity. And EPI 410. I actually went out and created a survey myself. I went to Lexington High School, did a survey of 100 kids and just 16 basic questions of, are you physically active? What do you eat in a day? And all that. Well, then I took that information, actually tied it into Excel and got all the research myself, and I tied that with information from the CDC on how fat kids are in South Carolina, and we had to do a lit analysis, and I tied all this information into an 8-page paper on what we need to do to help fight childhood obesity in South Carolina, because it's becoming a huge epidemic. And currently in my sociology class, it's Soci 340, it's Problems in Society. We started off the class talking about issues in America, and obesity is one of the top problems that are occurring not only in children but adults as well. But if we start off with the kids, teaching them how to be healthy and overcome that epidemic, hopefully will start going away. But I'm going to come up here and I'll show you more on my program that I've used all these courses to actually implement into the real world. All right, my program is called CROW. It stands for Carolina Reaching Out for Wellness. And I was a student athlete here, so I had a great connection with the athletic department. They had my back along with all my professors, Dr. Barth, Dr. Corwin, and Dr. Montgomery. And I went to Erica Nelson, who's in charge of the volunteer coordinating and community outreach. Went and talked to her, and she's all for the idea. And recently, the SEC actually just came out with a conference-wide initiative saying we have to have a MOVE initiative for just kids in the community. They wanted student athletes to be positive role models. Well, she actually came to me because I already had this in the process of making. And I've teamed up with them and the SEC. I met all their criteria. And in March 22nd, we're actually going to Hand Middle School as a kickstart for the program. And I'm hoping, this is going to blow up, and then I can pass this down to athletes in the future. I want to stay here for grad school, and I'll just keep working at this, and hopefully, make it nationwide for different conferences, different schools, and yeah, that's about it. So, thanks for y'all time. And
okay. We are now going to switch gears a little bit, and Charlotte, instead of sharing an e-portfolio, is really specifically going to talk about reflection and what she has learned about reflection through this process of working with an e-portfolio. Thanks, Charlotte.
Well, as she said, my name is Charlotte Wirtz. I'm a senior public health major here at USC, and I'm going to talk to y'all about the importance of reflection in integrative learning and in applying it to your e-portfolio and USC Connect as a whole. The most important thing about reflection, in my opinion, is that it gives you a chance to look at all of the coursework you've done, all of the beyond the classroom experiences that you've had, and you really get a chance to think about what those experiences meant to you, what you learned, and how they can all be drawn together to reach a bigger goal, to teach you what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, to teach you what you want to do with your life. And reflection isn't always an easy thing to do. I learned that in my Public Health 498 class, which is the senior capstone course that I'm taking with the other two students who just spoke. And Sarah Corwin and Steve Barth are teaching that. And earlier this semester, they asked us to do a reflection paper. And I think we all thought it was going to be pretty easy. We didn't really think about it too much. We just kind of answered their questions and turned them in. Well, a week and a half later, we got them back. Turns out we didn't do very well, and we were all pretty shocked and disappointed by that. So I'm going to show y'all first kind of what not so great reflection looks like, and then I'll show you an example of better reflection after that. So as you see up here, you don't have to read everything that's listed here, but this was one of the questions on the first reflection paper that they had us answer, and it was, in what ways is your intended contribution connected to your values? We have to do a project in the community this semester, so that's what they mean by intended contribution. I answered by saying, because of my values, and then I listed all the other things that I talked about and said that they meshed together and led to me wanting to become an obstetrician and gynecologist and work with teen pregnancy and reproductive health. Well, my feedback was, what are they? What are your values? I didn't even think about the fact that I may know what my values are, but a reader doesn't know what my values are. And the point of the question was for me to articulate what my values are and to reinforce the fact that they do go along with all these other things and make sure that my ultimate goal is in line with my values. I completely missed the point of that. This is not what everyone in my class did, but we all had little things, I think, like this where we didn't quite delve into the assignment quite like they had hoped. So we had a second assignment more recently, and hopefully I think we all did much better on this one after they kind of talked some sense into us. A question here was a follow-up to, they listed all the competencies of the public health program here and asked us to rate them on a scale of 1 to 4 on how strongly we felt that we either did or did not understand that competency as graduating seniors. And then here they asked us to talk about our comments and thoughts about the competency self-assessment that we gave. And I gave a 3 or 4 to all of the different competencies, and I talked about that in the first paragraph up here. But then what I did after that was I talked about why I gave them a 3 or 4 and what I think I learned because of those competencies and what in the courses helped me do that. And then I talked about how I want to apply what I learned in those courses to my life in the future. So one thing in particular that my teachers thought was good that I put in here was I talked about how in group projects, I hated those coming in as a freshman. I hated group projects. I thought they were not fun at all because I pointed out that I was hesitant to trust my grade and the efforts of others. And over the course of my time in the public health program here, I had to learn to get better at group projects because they were something I was always going to have to do in public health, and I had to get better at dealing with them. And once I realized that, I was able to figure out ways to work around that and enjoy group projects and learn from them. So through reflection, I got better at doing group projects. And I talk about here what I did to get better at it, how I decided to talk to the people in my group and figure out what their strengths were, what they like to do. And then I don't feel as apprehensive trusting them with my grade because I'm giving them something that they want to do and that they are good at doing. And the biggest part of this reflection that I think was helpful for me was not only was I able to be better at group projects through this, but I can apply that later on in life. You're always going to be working with people, and you're going to have to learn how to work with others and trust others to help you achieve your goals. And this taught me that through reflection. It wasn't just the program that did that, it was reflection and tying it all back in together. So hopefully you're all incorporating your reflective writing or reflective thoughts into your USC Connect program and your e-portfolios.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Appreciate that. And now is the time that we're going to move the chairs because we are not really going to be relying much on the slides anymore. And so we're going to just turn the chairs in a little bit so that you can see all of the students. And we're going to hear from a couple more students. And then we're going to move to our question and answer phase. So very good. And so now, let's see, we've got the mic down at the end. So, Brewer, are you going to start with some additional comments? Sure. Okay, thanks.
My name is Brewer Eberly. I'm a senior biology major. I've been blessed and honored to be able to apply to medical school over the past several months, and I'm choosing right now between what school to go to. One of the things I love about USC Connect is the idea of story and narrative. I think one of the most difficult skills to learn as a college student is how do you talk about yourself well. How do you talk about yourself briefly and still communicate, hey, this is me, this is my personality, these are the things I love These are the things I believe in. How to do that with humility, but also confidence. One of the things I loved about the application process for medical school was something called the AMCAS. Part of it's a nightmare because you got to learn how to summarize everything you've done in a series of short essays. But one of the things I loved about it was, okay, I now have a story. I have a narrative that connects all of my experiences, that connects the things I'm passionate about, the things that I love. And I think USC Connect does that. It's one of the reasons I jumped on board with this project, because I said, hey, this is a mini AMCAS, but for every single student at USC. So now every student has the opportunity to write about all their experiences, showing pictures, showing videos, whatever it may be, in one short summary, and being able to connect that with the idea of an overarching narrative, telling a story. Because I think in most of the interviews that I was in and most of the conversations I have with employers or professionals, people just want to hear a story. They want to hear who you are. They want to hear something that happened to you your sophomore year in college, your senior year, what you learned from it, and where you see yourself going. And I think the USC Connect ePortfolio project provides an incredible platform to do that. So happy to be involved.
Thank you, Brewer. My name is Devontae Singleton. I am a sophomore, probably one of the youngest up here with all these seniors getting ready to leave. When I first joined the USC Connect team, I honestly did not know what it was. When I heard about it, I said to myself, oh yeah, who am I getting connected with exactly? So, but now that I've been working with them, I definitely understand what's going on, and I definitely see that there is a need for this among students, faculty, and staff at USC. One of the reasons why I got interested and wanted to get involved with USC Connect was I got tired of people asking, well, what do you want to do after you graduate? Well, seeing as though I'm a sophomore, I have a pretty good idea what I want to do now, but when I first came in as a freshman, you don't really think about that. And USC Connect has allowed me to not only think about my future, but I'm able to use what I know and apply that not only to now, but past when I graduate as well. That's one of the things that USC Connect will do for you. You're able to take all these different things, you're able to reflect on them, you're able to write a narrative about what you have done and take that to future employers. For me, after I graduate, I'm going directly into grad school. Hopefully, after I get into grad school, I can use this to show future employers, this is what I've done, and this is what I hope to be able to do. Not only after I graduate from college, it's able to help me while I'm here at Carolina now. Thankfully, through the Opportunity Scholars Program, I am able to be a mentor to 4 wonderful freshman students, and I'm hoping that I'm able to use my portfolio once I begin that to show them, not only my mentees, but also other students as well, that this is what you can do. You want to be able to track your progress. You want to be able to take what you've done so that other people can see this is what you're doing. Besides outside work, I've been able to connect different areas within my classes. One particular class I'm taking now is University 201 Service Learning in South Carolina, led by Dr. Dottie Weigel. This Friday, we're going to be taking a trip to Allendale, South Carolina, where we'll be getting involved in a lot of community service and just helping different areas in need. Just being able to take that and apply that to my classroom, the work that I'm doing, that's something that that's really important to me, and I want to be able to share that with others. Recently, I discovered that there's a lot of things going on in South Carolina, and I want to be able to research that. USC Connect has been able to lead me to different offices to take what I've learned in class and to take what I've done out in the community and lead me to different offices around so that I can do my own research. Thanks to Althea Count in the TRIO department and Dr. Susan Alexander in the Honors College. I swear if it wasn't for them, I would probably not know exactly where I can go to become connected so that I can, maneuver the different offices around campus. And that, to me, that's something that I feel not all students have access to. And something like USC Connect is something that we need so that you can know exactly, okay, this is available to me. How do I get to that? And how does it apply so that I can do the things that I want to do and make my time at Carolina special? Like stated, USC Connect, it offers many benefits for students, like Dr. Dorpinghouse stated, maybe the graduation with distinction, something that's looking pretty good right now, but also the grad school stuff that's going to be coming up shortly. I'm going to want to be able to summarize what I've done besides just a resume, a blank sheet of paper. Well, not blank, but a paper with words telling an employer, this is what separates me from other students, from other applicants, and this is why you should choose me. Thankfully, Dr. Van Scoy chose me to get in on this initiative, and this is something I'm really looking forward to doing, and I'm hoping that other students are able to do the same as well. Thank you.
Okay, and that let us thank them one more time for all these wonderful students. Wow. Okay, so I have so many thoughts going through my head. Just hearing all the things that you're doing is just absolutely so impressive, and is what we hope for all students. So you are great role models for other students, and we really thank you in leading the way in helping with USC Connect and with e-portfolios, and how the integrative learning can really be a reality for all of our students. So we are now at the point where we can entertain questions from you, and we have a microphone which is in the aisle over on this side for people here. People who are with us online can write in their questions, and we'll have them passed on to us. And so if you have a question for any one of the students or the whole group or for me, let us give you that opportunity right now.
Hope it's not on, is it? I'm Helen Derpinghouse, and I have a question for Davis. Davis, you showed us this e-portfolio you did, and we saw lots of words, and I don't think you showed us the graphics, but I bet you have pictures or something. I saw a word that said brochure, and my guess is if you're trying to sell a program, which it sounds like you are, you must have thought about images. And could you talk a little about what you did in your e-portfolio with that?
Yes, ma'am. For the brochure and a PowerPoint, it's I'm going to Hand Middle School. We get 60 minutes. We got 3 classes coming there, and I wanted to make it kid friendly because and shorten down the words because it might just go over their heads and they might not get the point. But I made it colorful and not as boring, so they're not just going to stare at me. And I know how middle school kids were, because I didn't want to go to a auditorium and listen to somebody speak. But in the brochure, that's really just to take home to the parents, to educate them, because it all starts at home. And the parents with what they're cooking, taking the kids out to fast food and all that, and actually to encourage their kids to get outside and be active. So that's mainly where that was, but it's to encourage kids to get at least 60 minutes of activity daily and to, eat healthy. And that's what, with the help of Dr. Montgomery, she helped me with all the nutrition facts, and my plate, which is replaced the My Pyramid when we grew up. It's for serving sizes and how much of your plate should be of what fruit or vegetable, grains, and proteins. So I've really harped on what they should be eating, and they should be active with, examples of what activities are considered, to be, or you should get for the 60 minutes or do. So, thank you.
I have another question. I really appreciated Charlotte's conversation about reflection. And it sounds like Dr. Corwin and Barth talked with you about reflection and asked good questions and gave good feedback. I also want to put Dan Friedman on the spot. He's the U101 director. Yeah, a little applause there. And I want to know how you teach reflection. Sarah Corwin and Steve Barth obviously have learned how to teach reflection, and we have these U101 instructors who are doing some things with USC Connect and reflection. I'd love to hear from you, Dan, and anybody else about what do you do with reflection? I have a PhD, but I was never trained in that.
All right, Sarah. don't even see it. Hi, I'm Sarah Corwin in the Arnold School of Public Health. Whoop, face this way. Yeah, thank you. Hi out there in TV land. Well, that's interesting, and I certainly wouldn't profess to be an expert in integrative learning and reflection. In fact, it was just until I met Irma and got to look at some of the documents. By the way, I strongly recommend that everybody, faculty, staff, students that are interested and really, really go to the Connect website. There's lots of great resources, especially one is the integrative learning. What is integrative learning posted? No. Oh. It's coming. Okay. We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. There's a document about the history and the background of integrative learning, and my guess is people are already doing it. Yes, that document. So that was my exposure, was very recently. So I think, and Dan, you're going to have to help me out on this, it stems from knowing how to ask the right questions for students. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, to ask the right questions, to get students to think, and it is a higher order learning task. So being able to have students reflect on their experiences and then ask them to think how they're connected in meaningful ways, I think it stems from really good questions and then talking through it. It's a process. And one of the things that Steve Barth and I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, what am I doing? Hold on. I'm getting sorry for those people out there online. We'll come back to it in a minute. One of the things that I think is very important that we've figured out is it has to start early on in the student's career here as a student, as a college student. So Dan, I think this is the part that as University 101 teachers that we're all really pleased to see, because it's got to start from the minute they come in. It's got to be perpetuated throughout their entire academic career here, and really to sort of train faculty and staff and the students on how to think this way. Because Charlotte alluded to this, and the other students will tell you, it was kind of eye-opening. Many of the courses are rote memorization, and that's fine. That's fine. They lend themselves to that, and that's good. I mean, but to go the different level, to have students actually critically think and think integratively it's a process, and it takes time. So we're looking at ways to integrate this into the curriculum, into our program. Steve, did you have another comment? Did you want to add? Cara?
I just wanted to say I'm Cara Montgomery in the School of Public Health, and I think students actually enjoy reflecting, and I think, really enjoy it when you read it and comment back. I think what students really don't like is when you do reflection and you just put a check mark and hand it back. I use reflection with the Harvest Hope piece, where my students go to Harvest Hope Food Bank and actually reflect on the experience, and then I blind that. I take the names off and share it back with Harvest Hope, and they use that to improve what the students are experiencing. Because if students will say someone by name, they'll say, Dennis was super helpful in product rescue, and he made me feel welcome, and he asked me about what it was like to be a student. And I'm just using Dennis's name. But Dennis actually has a GED. So, you know, that is so cool that the volunteer coordinator in that area is taking an interest in the students and telling them, you know, that's so awesome you're in school. And that makes the experience even greater. And so then the students will be like, why are we giving out soda? A lot of students who take applied aspects of human nutrition think, we shouldn't be giving out soda. You know, that's all in the media now. We're talking about that with food stamps, or SNAP as it's really called. And so they'll explain, well, there's a big Pepsi bottling company here locally who donates us tons of product and money. So if we want to keep getting the money, we're going to take the soda too. And that's not the only thing they give out. But if the students don't ask the questions, which I encourage them to do, they're not going to get the answers, and then they have a bigger understanding of hunger. And I see that in the reflection paper. And it is hard work, and I know when you have larger classes, I'm speaking out to the professors, it is, you know, it's daunting when you have a stack of papers to grade. But what I try to do is think back, and I know Dr. Corwin does this as well, to when we were students. And I have 2 daughters now, and I know Dennis's 4 children went here. I keep thinking, if my kid was in this class, what would I want them to hear from the professor. And I'm not saying I'm perfect because they all know I'm not, but I'm just trying to get them to put the pieces together because it really will help them sell themselves when they go to look for a job or to apply to graduate school. So that's what I wanted to say. Anyone else?
I had a follow-up question for the students. Thank you, Charlotte, for your reflections, and Brewer for yours especially. And one of the things that's apparent is you had good instruction, and they really questioned you, and they followed up, and they made you reflect. And I'm wondering this question is, are you feeling now that you're becoming more skilled at doing your own self-reflection and that deeper thinking and that deeper, insightful looking at yourself? And are you getting better at that? One of the goals of our program, of course, is to become lifelong learners and to carry these skills beyond the classroom, beyond your undergraduate experience. And are you starting to have a sense and a feel, even though you've been doing it just for a semester, do you see that you're starting to get better at that yourself and you're having deeper learning and gaining deeper insights?
All right, so I'm in this infamous public health course where we received our reflection papers, and I explained to them that we had gotten our papers back, but I am a science-based major. I've taken biologies, I've taken chemistries, I've taken the organics, but I haven't really taken any courses that asked me what I thought about myself and how I thought that how would the values and skills that I've learned help me become a better occupational therapist? Or, until my junior year, I didn't even know I wanted to do that. And so my first 2 years, I didn't even know what I wanted to really go into other than health. And so I think that other than those 2 times, once we did do the reflection, I did start thinking about it more outside of even the classroom. And I explained to Dr. Corwin, now I sit through my courses and I think, okay, exactly what I'm learning right now, how is that exactly connected to what I want to do, because now that I know what I want to do. And so it is changing that you begin reflecting on your own. She's even told me to grab a notebook and write these things down so that I keep them, so it's not just a thought that comes and diminishes. But it is changing, but the idea of that first reflection where you think about it and it's kind of difficult and it really challenges you, and then you see what you're lacking in that reflection and reflecting on your own values and skills. Once you do that, then you know where to start. It's just like a starting point. And that's what I told her. I felt like I was going from 0 to senior, but then I learned that I wasn't as far behind as I thought, and reflection really isn't that difficult. So.
Anybody else like to speak to Dr. Pruitt's?
I can comment on that a little bit. Even though I'm just a sophomore, but I have not actually done much reflecting until I started doing the USC Connect project. One of the things that, Brewer, you actually brought it up when we were meeting with Dr. Van Skoy, I think it was last week, I'm not sure. It's important to, I think someone stated, to start when you first come in as a freshman. By the time you are a senior, you will have completed so many different projects that's either pertinent to your major or just other extracurricular activities, and you want to be able to remember that stuff. If you are not able to start when you come in and start reflecting and writing these stuff down, I can guarantee you, you would probably forget most of the things that are important to you when you do them, but may not be as important when you're a senior. So I definitely think that reflection in the act of doing it, although it may be a little tedious at the time, to write, well, how did that make you feel? I think it's really important to actually do that. And I myself have actually started to do that, trying to remember the things that I've done my freshman year and the things that I do now, and also just tying that into what I want to do in the future. I'm an English major. I want to go into education. So most of the work that I do, it does in some way tie into me being a teacher and how I can better myself and better prepare my students when I start to teach. So reflection, it's a good thing. It's a time-consuming thing if you're doing it correctly. But I think if you definitely start when you first come to college, by the time you are a senior getting ready to go, you should hopefully you'll have a book ready to publish, so. But it's definitely worth it, though.
That was good. Okay. I guess I have 2 thoughts. You're fine. is one, just learning to surround yourself with incredible mentors. So this campus is full of incredible men and women who would love to meet with students and sit down. And David DeWiel, I especially just always want to spotlight because he very much moved from being my University 101 leader from a freshman to then my employer, working in Capstone, to then my co-instructor as a peer leader. And now he's just a good friend, and we get coffee every Friday and talk about life or marriage or politics or whatever. And I love that, and that's another reason I thought the portfolio project was so powerful, because it would be a chance to spotlight that and say, hey, this is available for any freshman to come in, find a professor that they enjoy spending time with, and kind of, I guess, move up the levels of mentorship. And then the second thing, I think for being such an incredibly individualistic culture, we actually do a really poor job of self-analysis. And so I think this is illustrated, at least in my life, of, the proverbial, well, why do you want to go to medical school? Oh, well, I have this GPA or this MCAT score, and I do well in these classes. That's a terrible answer to the question of why do you want to go to medical school? So round two, why do you want to go to medical school? Oh, well, I like science and I like helping people. Better. Still a terrible answer, I would argue, to that question. And so, again, learning to be able to answer that with, like you said, these are my values, giving a little bit more robust answer to the question of why, I think is incredibly important. I don't know if that answers your question, but okay.
If you don't mind, I wanted to add one more thing. Is this on? Can y'all hear me?
Do you want this one?
Okay. Self-reflection does get easier as you continue doing it. I started doing it as a U101 peer leader back in the fall. I actually had Dr. Dan, and Steve was my co-instructor. So I started doing it back then, but I wasn't great at it, and I still don't think I'm perfect at it. I don't know if anyone ever can be perfect at self-reflection, but through my public health 498 class, I've gotten better at it, and I do see myself doing it on my own, not just when my instructors ask me to. And I think one of the big things I've noticed that makes people maybe hesitant to do self-reflection on their own is they might be uncomfortable with the uncertainty of not knowing what the result of that's going to be. And one thing Steve likes to keep telling me is you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. You have to be comfortable with questioning, does this really align with my values? Does my career path really, is that correct for me? And some people are afraid to self-reflect, but until you do that, you can't find the correct path. So I think it's important that we start it earlier, and it does get easier to self-reflect on your own as you go.
Okay. Oh, we have another question.
And I even have heels on, and I'm not even tall enough. I'm inspired by your stories, and I think that it was Brewer who talked about using the word story. And so thank you so much for sharing that, because this is part of your learning and growth as well, and not easy to be up here in front of all of us and all of everyone else who's watching you from wherever they are. So thank you very much. 4 of the 6 of you mentioned that your path to the e-portfolio is through a class. I'm not sure about the last 2 gentlemen. If you each could share with us, or perhaps a few of you, on would you have done this had it not been part of a course? And would you have found your way to it had it not been prompted to you via that academic component? And that might be a yes or no answer with a small response to it. But then also, what is your recommendation for us to try to help people find the value that you have if it's through their own journey, not from an academic assignment, but through their involvement on campus, through their work, through their employment, since this is for all students, and we want to find all the pathways for them to get to this experience, not just as a function of a class, which we know also works based on the inspiring stories that you're sharing. So thank you for those comments.
Well, I did my e-portfolio in my University 101 class, and I had no idea what it was. Obviously, a freshman, I didn't know much, but I think, no, I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for my University 101 class. A lot of my freshman friends didn't do it. They don't know what it is. They don't understand it. And I think specifically my professor was Dr. Renee Connolly, who worked with the USC Connect program. So she had a little bit insight on that, which was great. But I think it was just a great experience, and I think that it should be integrated into, I think all freshmen should be able to do it. Like I said, I think it's so important to be able to build on that throughout your 4 years. So what was your second question? I don't remember. Okay. That's a tough one. I think really the University 101 class is just the main thing. I think that they really forced on it. My professor and my peer leader really harped on, getting involved on campus that first semester. And I think I probably wouldn't have done any of that stuff if it wasn't for them. Not necessarily them making us do that as a class requirement, but just really encouraging us and giving us the materials and the resources for those things. They would provide us with links, and they would tell us when these fairs were going on Green Street and things that I had seen in emails but would bypass. So I think it is essential to have it in a class. For me personally, I think that's how it would work best. So I really had a great experience with it in the University 101 course.
Well, from a senior's perspective, I would just say that all of my friends are looking for jobs and they're trying to get into grad school, and that's the main goal of us going to school here. I mean, you gain some self-growth on the side, but the main goal is to better yourself and get a job. And so when it comes to this portfolio, I never would have found it without this class. I'd heard of other universities doing it. I know Clemson University, my friends that go there have to do it. But I think that the best way would just be to showcase what the ePortfolio does and show that it's such a greater way for you to represent yourself, and it's a step above a resume, and show that how students have used this portfolio to further themselves so that other students can look at that and say, wow, John made his portfolio and it helped him get his job, or it helped him go into grad school, and it helped him further himself better than a resume could have. And I think that that's honestly going to be the best way for students to see others succeeding and want to follow in their footsteps, and that's how the portfolio is really going to thrive.
One suggestion I have is possibly having a student forum kind of like this, maybe at orientation. I don't really know how all that works. It's been a while since I've been to orientation as a freshman. But possibly have something about it there so they see it before they get here and they get excited about it early on, and then possibly have it incorporated into advisement within every department and have their advisors checklist like, hey, have you started your ePortfolio? Here are the links to do this, and maybe even have their advisors look at it. I know that's a lot of extra work for advisors, but hopefully through the USC Connect whole program, we can incorporate that into advisement. I think that would help a lot if people can't take U101, for example, and get it through there.
One other suggestion I have, typically when you are a freshman, you come to college, you forget that Dr. Gahagan, Dr. Pruitt, Dr. Dorpinghouse, y'all are people. Y'all aren't just, these robotic adults who are helping lead us into getting a degree. One of the suggestions I have is when you guys are, either teaching a section of U101 or either something that's pertinent to our major, reminding students that you all are also interested and you all also do a lot of other things besides just teaching. One of the things that I recently learned about one of my professors is that they do so much other stuff on the side that I would never imagine, And because of that, I actually want to get involved on doing some things that she does. I feel like students, they don't always take the full advantage of their professors and faculty. If you guys are able to, let us know, maybe like the first day of class, hey, this is what I do, but I also do this as well. So if you're interested in getting, doing some research on this, or if you're interested in an internship at this company, this is something that I have personal experiences in. That would not only give students that would give them the motivation, but that would also give them just an idea, get some ideas generating to things that they may be interested in. I can tell you when I came in as a freshman, I had all these ideas. Sometimes they would come and leave and I'd never remember them again. But the point is, we have these ideas, but we don't always know exactly where to start. A lot of freshmen aren't able to take U101, like you stated. But a lot of us, we are taking classes, well, I hope all of us are taking classes that are pertaining to our major. And our professors, they're not just there, to teach those classes. Some of them, they go back and they have research labs. Some of them, they help coordinate internships. So if students had that information readily available just from you guys, that would also make the world of difference for us and also provide us with more opportunities so that we can get involved even earlier as we come in. So hopefully some of your professors do that for you as well, Jordan. So, you can keep trying to find your special niche as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love the advisement idea for one. And then also, two, I think maybe either pairing students or pairing them with mentors so they don't feel alone. They feel it's more of a team approach to the actual project. I know, at least for me, some of the tech stuff can get in the way sometimes. So just know that there's resources out there to help me approach the project with a little bit more confidence. And I do think this is worth saying, is I do think that David and I were talking about this actually last week, that sometimes you can knock on the door as loud and as long and as hard as possible, and some students just aren't going to answer. And so I do think that you guys do an exceptional job, and yes, just sometimes students aren't going to respond, and you have to go through a different route, whether that's emotional or spiritual or communal or something else. And yeah.
I'm going to add a couple of comments related to this conversation so that I don't forget them. One is something that's really interesting to me is that I'm not hearing from you a concern about the technology that it got in your way. And one thing I want to just say to the broader audience is that we've continued to develop e-portfolios. So even from last spring to this fall to this spring. Jordan, of course, you used the e-portfolio that we had as last fall, but it's been upgraded even since then. And one of the things, even though we're trying to make it more user-friendly and easier, that I want to advocate for is that if you're interested in doing e-portfolios or if you're going to do them with your class, it really helps get beyond any problems with the technology if you have a training session. And we only have one Michelle Dames, but we will figure out the answer if we need to do more of those technology training sessions, because we don't want the technology to get in the way. So we don't really want everyone to go out right now and click on their Blackboard account and find ePortfolio and click on it and think they can start, because there are a few key things you need to know. And I think your sessions were probably about an hour with Michelle. And you just need that 1 hour session. We have lots of help available on the web that, again, Michelle has created for us, lots of specific PDFs and little video clips and those kinds of things. But we just don't want the technology to get in the way. So if for any chance anyone starts to use an ePortfolio and they feel like, oh, I can't figure this out, don't throw it out. Call us, and we will help you get you the support that you need to learn it. Because what now, you can all contradict me if I'm wrong, but you were all fine with the technology, right? It takes a while. Go ahead.
It took me a couple of weeks to first learn how to use the program, just kind of like, working on it like 30 minutes or so every other day or so. But then once you catch on, you can learn how to go back and edit things so quickly. So, I mean, it's just using a new program, just like social media, honestly, which a lot of our students use. You just kind of have to learn how to use it first, and then once you have it, you know it. So it just takes a little while to catch on.
Great. Thank you.
I just want to add real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
When Michelle Dames came, she brought us, I think she came twice, and she brought us a little pamphlet that had the list, like, okay, you'll click on your content collection, then you'll do this, 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 this. And I think I'm such a step-by-step person, it's pretty much foolproof. Like, I'm not technologically savvy, and I really had no problems. I did a few troubleshooting with, like, adding pictures and making them smaller, making them bigger, but that's really easy, especially with our cyber generation. So I don't think the technology is a problem at all if that's what anyone's worried about. So,
thank you, Jordan. And I wanted to pick up on Devontae's suggestion when he was asking all of us, faculty and staff, to tell students more about us. So, of course, what do we need to do? We need to create our own e-portfolios, right? So students could go click and learn about us. So that's what I think. I'm taking that as a challenge, because I don't have one up right now either. So I'll do that. Ooh. And then I wanted to put in one plug. I really appreciated all your suggestions about ideas for what we can do beyond classes. And of course, one of the things we can do, hopefully, is get the e-portfolio or similar kinds of work integrated into more and more of our classes so students all have that as part of their required program. But in addition, finding other ways to get the word out there so that students can see it as a possible solution, even if it's not being done in a particular class. And the plug I want to put in for is Discovery Day. And I want to remind all of you that you still have time until this Friday to put in your abstract to have your e-portfolio at Discovery Day this year. So we are encouraging some of the students and some that are not on the stage here have expressed an interest as well as presenting their e-portfolios at Discovery Day. Julie Morris is here, who's the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research, and her office leads in all ways Discovery Day. And we appreciate so much her graciousness in including USC Connect as a sponsor of the event, because we think it is a perfect event for USC Connect because it is challenging students to make a presentation that through which they need to do this reflection in order to tell us what they have learned. So it all fits together so well. And Discovery Day has been broadened, as many of you may know, that it is not just about research, but about students' participation in study abroad, in community service, in any one of the pathways. So students can present on what they've learned through many different venues at Discovery Day. And that's where we see the e-portfolios potentially fitting in, is that it doesn't have to be a research project, but that it can be how you've learned through all these other kinds of experiences that you've had. And that's one of the little ways that we're looking into getting e-portfolios a little bit more visible. If we have some projects at Discovery Day, that will help spread the word a little bit. And then the other little piece that we are working on, and that I was reinforced when I heard your comments about making sure that you're around people who can support you in this endeavor. And I really appreciate Residential Life at USC is looking into training on e-portfolios for all of the resident mentors, so that we would have students in the residence halls who know how to do e-portfolios and can help those, especially first-year students, get started with what they're doing. So we're looking at spreading those ways, but these ideas that you've given us are great, and I'm really glad this is being taped because I'm going to have to go back. This has been such a rich discussion. Dan, you have a question?
Actually, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And
Great.
I just never cease to be amazed at the quality of students we have here at South Carolina. I'm just kind of blown away by y'all. So reflecting on myself, I never really share those kind of feelings. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to step forward and just say how proud I am of all of you. And this is really... thank you to Irma for putting this on. I think this is one of the better forums we've had, and I really enjoyed hearing from the students and getting your perspective. You're all very bright and thoughtful and articulate. So if this is indicative of the quality of students we have here, I think we're in great shape.
Exactly. Helen's trying to get here, but I won't let her. I keep blocking the mic. I have one more thing I have to do. We agree. These are fantastic students. What I was thinking, Dan, was, wow, I think after 2 years I might have learned how to do a forum. I wonder if I can ever do this again. As a small token of our appreciation, we have for you all a USC Connect t-shirt that was designed by students, and we brought many of them so you could pick out your size today, but we just really want to thank you for all your work and agreeing to be here today. So one more round of applause for the students.
Well, I would like to echo what Dan said. I think this is one of the best forums that we've had. We started these forums when we moved the general education curriculum to the Carolina Core, and I kept hearing that there was going to be a battle. And so the purpose of the forum was to allow people to vent and to give ideas and to respond to what was needed. And boy, over time we've really learned that the forums can be a lot more fun than that. And they have been today, and a lot more constructive. As Irma said, we've been able to have a taping of this, and there'll be a link that you can go to and the student comments were so good. I know for me, I'm going to cut a piece of that and be able to share those great comments with other people. When a minute ago I referred to the revision of the general education curriculum, and when we revised Gen Ed, we realized we needed a new name, and the name is the Carolina Core. And that name reflects a couple of things. One, it's about Carolina. It's about us here at USC. And Core reflects that it's the same for all of us and that it's central to what we do. And so I would like to announce a contest, and we'd like a new name for ePortfolio. As you think about what you've done, is there a different phrase or different words that might begin to shape? Did you have a suggestion down there already, Brewer? No, not a serious one. But so I hope that you'll send your suggestions, students, faculty, and staff, for a name for our Carolina ePortfolios that's creative and really captures the spirit. And I think there'll be a really great prize, like maybe lunch with Dan and Dennis if you win. Or something equally exciting. Any other questions? Any other comments? I really appreciate all of those of you who made today possible, and want to thank Irma Van Scoy for good leadership, and especially tell you students that you are the reason we're here, and days like today make us really glad we're here. Thanks so much.